All right, welcome to the Ordinance and Policy Committee for November 29th, 2023. Present today are Councilman Klent and Councilman Schramm. Additionally, appointed officers, Public Works Director Troy Kruger, City Finance Officer Chandra Phillips, and City Attorney Paul Jensen. Today it looks like we have an item of one ordinance and an addendum, two ordinances possibly, an addendum and a resolution. Paul, I will turn this meeting over to you and let you guide us through this with council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're looking at ordinance that starts out as numbered as 1069, which involves cats. My understanding the last time that we began the discussion that a couple of council had asked me to look at trying to make this a parallel type of approach with what we do with dogs. And so I have tried to prepare something that does that and yet doesn't adopt everything from dogs, because some of it frankly just isn't going to work with dogs. But what I've attempted to do with this is to make it so that whenever somebody's cats are on somebody else's property, that constitutes a nuisance which can be abated by virtue of the police department or animal control picking the violating animals up, holding them for up to a maximum of 7 days, and if nobody claims it, then take it to a shelter. In order to accomplish this, obviously, there's one thing that I think we're a little lax in, and maybe we'll need to be talking about it with the folks from public safety. I'm not sure how much facility we have for holding it.
Right.
But at any rate, just to cut to the chase, that was the approach that I took when I compared everything with dogs. And so, of course, we have a large portion of the chapter on dogs that deals specifically with vicious animals and things like that. We don't have that with cats, and so I just tried to take the simple approach that would probably be the most workable, at least in my opinion, for a starting point. So with that, I would certainly seek any questions that anybody's got. I guess I would point out that if the cat is not claimed, I think I said within that period of time, then they'll transfer it down to a shelter. In the event that it is claimed, I've got this on page 2, paragraph C, the civil penalty of $20 per cat at large, plus the sum of $3 per day or a fraction per cat to the city for the cost of keeping the animal for however many days we keep it. So that's the place to begin the discussion. I'm looking for comments.
Is there a reason that we can let the cat run on public property, like at the city park?
No, there's not a reason. And this was the...
Or a baseball field or something like, I just wrote a note.
Okay.
What about or public, where you say, by such person to run at large on the private property of any other person.
And I took the approach only...
Or public property.
Right, and we can certainly do that.
And if we do that, would a street be public property?
It
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I think there's 3 spots that I wrote that note,
Okay?
but that's sure up for discussion. That's
Okay.
just my own.
No, and
Reading
that's
it fast.
probably a logical thing to include here. My thought process at the time I was drafting this was that I was trying to keep it more in the context of the police department or their animal control officer being responsive to complaints from people that are complaining because the neighborhood cats are coming in and pooping all over their driveway or
Yep.
their lawn.
Yep.
That's what I was trying to, but I see exactly what you're talking about, and we can certainly include both public and private.
Wherever it's applicable, I would think we should add that,
Okay, I will
at least
make
to
that. I
the
will make
three
that change.
paragraphs that I did.
Okay,
And then my next question is, what do we charge for a dog that is claimed?
the $3 a day is consistent for dog.
Okay,
The dogs, however, was not a civil penalty. It was basically a ticket where they could get arrested with a ticket. I'm trying to remember what it is on the bond schedule, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what it is. It's on the bond schedule,
okay,
as I recall.
okay.
So this goes through the courts then, not through the city of Winter?
I'm
Correct.
pretty sure that they're charging $60 to get your dog out of the
I
pound.
think 60, is that what it is?
Okay.
But who's,
The
Where's
county
that?
gets it then.
who?
The county gets it. We don't get it.
Well,
Well,
that,
not a ticket, I don't believe.
I thought it was, and maybe I'll have to look at that because I honestly don't recall.
I think
just-
it should match. If we're not charging $20 for a dog, then we probably shouldn't charge $20 for a cat. But if we're not charging $20 for a dog, I think we ought to be charging 50 or 60 if we don't have a fee for a
Yeah.
dog. And I think if you're gonna deter somebody from letting their cat run, $20 ain't gonna stop that.
And here again, let me just share my thought process
Yep.
with you. Most of the cat, quote, owners whose animals are gonna be violating this thing have more than one. And they probably may have more than 3. Is the way that we impose a penalty going to deter them from wanting to claim their animal? If they have 3 or 4 cats that get picked up, and it's $20, that's a lot of money, but a lot of them will pay it to get their cat back. If you go with 50 or $60 per critter, you're probably now saying bye-bye to the cat.
Couple $100.
And that would solve our dilemma. Are we not with this ordinance trying to solve cats running around town?
Well, it's certainly, absolutely, I mean,
Okay.
that's the impetus.
But it,
And,
I don't
and if
think
that's
the-
if that's the purpose of this ordinance, then isn't the steepest thing possible that they don't wanna come and
But-
claim their cat?
Most of them aren't, most of the problems aren't gonna be people that have their cats in their house. It's the ones that nobody claims. They're feeding them, but they're not claiming them.
But that's my point.
So if they disappear, they're not ever, it don't matter if they're free to come get them, they're probably not gonna come get them. They're not registered, they're not.
And after up to 7 days, we get rid of them.
But it's not it's not like me and my dog, or you and your one house cat. The cat problem is somebody that's that's just got a vacant house. Nobody is ever gonna come claim those cats if they get trapped and taken to they're just gone. They're fine feeding them.
But
they're-
don't we take them to Gregory? And they take them for free?
Gregory takes some animals,
They
not
won't-
all.
No, they won't take them all.
You start invading them, or just start overwhelming them, they're just gonna say we're full.
The police department has started putting together a list of different rural operators that want,
That would take cats.
Bark
yeah,
cats,
and
Okay.
that list
But
is
we get them
developed.
out of town.
We do.
And that's my reasoning here is if the ordinance is to limit cats running around town and nobody comes and claims the ones that won't stay in their yard, then we take them to White River to a farmer and say, here's a bunch of cats that'll chase your mice.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's how we would dispose, wrong word.
No, that's
how
an
we would
appropriate word.
control the population in winter
Yeah.
rather than shooting them or putting them to sleep or anything like that.
And I'm just, like I say, I think this is good feedback. You may be absolutely right, Austin, when you're talking about the amount of money for a lot of these quote problem cats. It is not going to be the question about whether anybody will pay that much. You're probably right for
I
most
don't,
of them.
yeah, I don't think it's gonna be, the little lady that has lost her cat and finds out that she don't care how much it costs, she's gonna go get it.
Yeah.
But the person that's feeding 8 or 10 of them in their neighbor's vacant garage, so they're all gone. They're not gonna come down to the pound and
And spend
say,
$160.
hey, are they
on
here?
those. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So what does up to 7 days mean? After
That-
2 days, we can get rid of them? That's
that
a
was-
little bit vague.
No, it is,
Yeah.
and I borrowed the language from the dog part of
Yep.
it, but I also wanted to provide an out for not keeping them that long, because I knew we had a problem with facilities.
Yep,
And-
yep, 'cause
and
that's what I
why I
wondered,
used
yeah.
that wording.
Yep.
So that if the police department says, gosh, we'll hang on to them for a couple of days, and after that, we gotta move them. That would give them the authority to do that.
This also allows if you have somebody, you bring in the stray critter and somebody comes in, it's
The
only.
next day.
Yeah, the next day you
Yeah.
have that authority to say,
Yep.
yeah, you can take it to that
I
farm.
agree with that,
Yeah.
yep.
So why are these going through the county, the fines? Why are they going through the county and the county gets to keep the money from it? Why is this not something that the city could keep the money from, since we're the one housing and all of that?
And that's a great question. Maybe we need to address the dog situation as well, because my reading of the dog, the dog situation is basically charging them with a misdemeanor for having their animal running at large.
Right.
And so on any crime, misdemeanor crime, unless we write it up otherwise, it goes through the clerk of courts.
It's just
And-
like a speeding, or a
And
stop
that's
sign
it's the
violation.
school district that gets most of that, not the county.
Right, and I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just, the misdemeanor going through the courts, that's perfectly fine, I understand that, but couldn't this be somewhat, the only fee that we ever collect for the city of Winter is a parking violation, and that's only for snow.
Snow.
The way I drafted this, though, we would keep that, because it's a civil penalty, it's not a fine, it's not a criminal fine.
Okay.
So it's a civil penalty that's collected by the city coffers get the money.
And
that's
it's
how
still
supposed to be
punishable.
for the dogs too?
Pardon me?
That's how it is supposed to be for the dogs? Because I can tell
No,
you, we've
the-
never collected anything on dogs.
No, I'm not saying that's how it's supposed to be for
Oh.
dogs. The dogs are charged as a crime.
As a misdemeanor. Oh, got
There's a
it.
criminal offense for having your dog running at large.
Okay.
So you can be a habitual criminal.
Cause
if
you
have
see
a lot
that
of
in the
Not
paper.
quite.
Yeah. you
Well,
know.
that's because some dogs are dangerous enough to impose harm on.
Sure.
Onto people or other animals.
I've
so
watched some videos of
It's
some crazy
considered-
cats
almost
that
considered a
attack their
weapon.
owners.
I got it, yep, I understand, good.
I think, but I do think that if we take a dog in or a cat, or who knows, this could open a can of worms. We might be catching somebody's hamster someday or whatever. But you take them down there, I think, and the city feeds and waters them and has a heat lamp in there, we should charge something.
And it come back to the city,
Yeah.
not go through the county.
I mean,
And maybe the $3 a day is written into our ordinance as far as dogs. So it may be that they're just not collecting it. I don't know. Something we can have a discussion with the police department about. Yeah. But maybe, I mean, you
it's a
tell.
little bit of a courtesy too, but if it's a habitual offender that just once a week, the neighbor calls and says your dog's out, the police officer goes over there, gets him, once a week, the owner gets off work at 5, comes home, oh, my dog ain't home, drives down there and sees it, and the police officer goes down and lets him have the dog. If it's just continual, I think we're tying
As
up.
long as that's
We're tying
available
up
to 'em.
resources that should be out patrolling streets,
Yeah.
and
As well as using
Instead they're-
electricity.
And for
Yeah.
$3, you can't take him to a dog sitter.
no, it's 17.50.
No, but we never should be doing it for just the $3.
I agree.
There ought to be, whether it's the dog's running at
It ought
large,
to be
write
a
them a
serious
ticket.
dollar amount, more than what a dog sitter would charge, just like we do for mowing grass. we'll mow your grass, but we're gonna charge you more than what a grass mower would charge you.
Yeah.
And that should be the same way on caring for a dog or a cat, or make it so that they take steps not to let their dog out.
What, is it through code enforcement? Is it through police or?
It's spelled out.
Who's buying dog food?
Police department.
Police department that's part of their budget.
Okay, so then is that
The budget is $500 a year.
They have a
the
contract
power
with
bill
their-
down there getting charged to
Police
the?
department pays for that now.
the power-
Yeah, they have a
Previous to
part,
this year, the jail was paying for it.
part-time
The
employee
jail,
that actually.
well, it is a jail.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the excuse I got.
Yeah,
The only thing that code enforcement has paid for up to this point is
The
the traps.
traps. Are they all out?
Police
They were
department says so.
sound feet.
Getcha.
Well, I think we need to do something. I mean,
By something, there's several different things we talked about.
yeah.
So
My head's spinning.
working it backwards is the sum of $3 a day. In your opinion, where would you like to see that as council?
I don't own a dog, I don't own a cat, I wouldn't have any idea what the cost to feed a dog or a cat is.
Well, I can tell you, I take
A good quality, a
I,
good,
17 or
if you just-
17.50 a day at the kennel.
Outlet, yeah.
Okay.
I take
Go
my
ahead,
dog
Troy.
an average bag of dog food. You know, if you go to
$80
Rennies and just buy the Old Roy or whatever, the cheapest stuff you can buy, it's still like $35 or $40
Yeah.
for a 40-pound bag.
And that'll last a month?
Down there, heck no. That'll last days.
We're talking about per dog.
One of those bags will last, I got a pretty big lab, and it'll last 25, 30 days,
Okay.
about a month.
I was gonna say, $3 a day is gonna cover the food
food.
itself.
Last week, I think there was 4 dogs out in the dog pound all week. I mean, there's hardly a week goes by that there's not a dog in the dog pound, but, you know, there's
Well-
usually multiple dogs
You
down
start
there.
adding cats, then you gotta do litter boxes and litter
Yeah.
and multiple cats, multiple boxes.
We'll just bring the sand down from Main Street.
I just think that if.
Is there a
if
divider
there's a-
down there
If there's
to-
There
a
is not.
service that's charging $17.50, we ought to be more than $17.50.
That argument's valid. But we're not boarding, we're not taking them in unless they're in violation, where that's a voluntary. We're never gonna just take them in and say, we'll board your dog.
If it's gonna cost me $17.50 to get my dog or cat back out of the kennel after it runs away, I'm gonna do everything I can to not let that dog run away.
Yeah.
If it's gonna cost me $3, oh, that's nothing, I'll go down after work and I'll get my dog, because I didn't take care of it to see to it he couldn't get out of my yard.
But if we charge them whether it's $20 or $50 or whatever, as a civil
Baseline.
penalty, in addition to the daily board fee.
Okay? I don't disagree with that, yep.
I know in some of the bigger communities in South Dakota, you know, bigger towns, if animal control catches your dog, the first place it goes is to the vet.
Yep.
And they give it rabies shot, they give it a round of shots to make sure that dog has been, had the
And then you
proper-
get to pay for that.
And you get to pay for that, and they charge you for that, and then they charge you for animal control to go get the pet, and then they charge you at the Humane Society for every day that it's there, you pay a fee. So, I mean,
If only we had a humane society.
you don't let your dog run loose in Sioux Falls or Rapid City, because it's gonna cost you $200 to get it back.
Well, and that's the point I'm trying to make here. The only way we're gonna stop this is to make it impossible for me to afford to get my dog back.
So what happens in that case, though?
What happens, what?
What happens in that case, though, where I can't afford to get my dog back? And so is it the city's now?
It goes to the shelter,
Proper
We give it
shelter.
away.
and you can probably
So
go,
pay $100 to get it back from.
you can go adopt it from the shelter.
Can we do this with kids? Oh, my daughter.
Now that we're done raising them, yeah.
Just start a GoFundMe page. You'll have it in no time. I do have a question though. So we have some of these vacant structures around town, and we know that they're harboring cats. Does the police department can they go onto that property
No.
and remove those animals without permission?
I would say this, if they're going onto a yard for a critter that's violating the law, yes, even though it's a civil penalty. Because we still have a provision here that says that animal is creating a nuisance by running around this property. So can they go in the yard? I think the answer is yes. They cannot go inside a structure without permission.
Can we go in the yard though without a complaint from the yard owner? That's what I would wonder that.
Well, I'm gonna say it doesn't have to be the owner of the yard.
Okay,
Typically speaking, anybody can complain and say, my neighborhood is a problem.
okay,
We got cats all over this place and I want something done about it.
okay.
That's effective. That's enough. And you know as well as I do that law enforcement and animal control have enough to do. They're not gonna be just out running around looking for cats unless there's a complaint they're trying to deal with.
But,
So how's like, if they catch your dog or your cat, like $20 a day in the
So,
pound?
the way ordinance 9019 reads, in the event a dog is claimed as provided for in ordinance 9018, said person owning, controlling, or harboring the dog shall pay the sum of $3 per day or a fraction thereof to the city of Winter for the cost of keeping said animal. And that was passed when?
That was just,
I should say it underneath
It doesn't, though.
here. So the last time that specific
Oh,
one.
1128.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, so 731, which is the one that adopted the full ordinance, so it's not been changed for a long time.
long time.
Through the finance office, I can tell you, I've never seen us collect.
That's
any money
15
for
years
dogs.
ago that rate was set.
Well, and I don't think $20 is, that means we've sent somebody over to catch the dog, they've taken it down there, they've fed it and watered it.
you're talking daily rate.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the
and-
$20 isn't ours. It's only the daily rate of $3.
I know, but what I'm saying is, to come get your dog, you give the police officer $20 if it's been there for a day, and that goes to the city. That's.
You want a $20
that's
You
how
want
I
the
look at it.
$20 a day,
That's how
not
I look at
$3
it.
a day.
$20 a day.
I,
So if your critter sits
your
there for
dog-
7 days, it's
If
$140.
your dog or cat is at home
Okay.
and gets out, it shouldn't be home alone if you're out of town for 3 or 4 days anyway.
It's cheaper to, it's still in that case cheaper to take it to the boarding than let it run loose. Okay.
that's exactly what I'm saying. We ought to be more money to house your dog than it is for you to hire somebody to house your dog.
Or cat.
Because we don't want to mow lawns.
If you have an animal in your house or in your backyard, I mean, I guess if you're gonna take care of it, you're home at least once during the day or that night, depending on your work shift, to feed and water it. And if it gets out, it's gonna cost you $20 to get it out, one day or whatever. I think you should be checking on your animal once a day if you have them.
Plus the sum of $20 per day.
So do you want the dog one to read the same?
Well, yeah,
I think we
I've
should
got a
look at it.
two-pronged approach here that I just want to see what you guys think. Assuming you want to do a $20 per day per animal, for, basically, that's for the cost of picking up, caring for the animal. Do you want to also have a
Penalty.
civil penalty imposed,
Yeah.
$50 for the
Yeah.
violation itself?
Yeah, and that's fine, and then that's just like a speeding ticket, that's up to the officer. You know, sometimes it might be you pulled over the same person for rolling through a stop sign. The second
Right.
time, they're gonna get a ticket. The first time, the officer has a judgment call to say,
He just takes the animal and you pay for
you
the
know,
care.
I
Okay.
mean, we gotta, I guess, take that judgment call out to have some sort of revenue, because
Yeah.
there are, I think, a lot of situations that we're not even collecting the $3.
As far as I know, we've never collected it as long
Oh,
as I've
my.
been here.
That's what I'm saying is,
It's tough to feed all those animals on $500 a year. And that's what your budget is.
You know what, though, I'm, just to play devil's advocate here, so some people aren't gonna get that fee and some people are.
it's just like a speeding ticket. Some
Yeah,
get a
I-
warning,
They'll
some get,
always get the city portion of the fee.
yep,
Always.
that's what's gonna be
The
considered.
$20 per day.
Civil penalty is the judgment call of the officer.
Do I write the ticket or do I just take the animal
Yeah.
and house it?
Right.
And can you write into the ordinance just to make it clearly defined? 'Cause you know,
Mandatory that they collect $20 per
Before the
day
animal is released.
before the animal's released, absolutely. Yep,
And
we,
if they-
we can make that so it's a
If the
mandatory.
police department says that they have to come up here and pay it before they'll let it out, then fine. Then
Perfect.
8 to 5, they have to come up here and pay it, then
Sure.
we'll notify them it's paid.
But
Sure.
let's not put that in the ordinance. If you work 8 to 5, and you get a hold of the police department, and they say, yes, we picked up a black lab today, that means that tomorrow you have to take time off work and leave your dog in overnight.
If we're gonna make the police department handle it, and if they don't wanna handle cash,
But
You
They
know what,
do-
Austin? Take care of your dog.
jails do, our jailers do with bond money. Our dump does, our recycling center does.
You're not wrong. We could give them a cash drawer.
yeah, the question is, are we gonna really give them a cash drawer for this kind of a,
$20 bill.
Well, if they need to make change, that'll be
They
the
could go to a
issue.
convenience store, bring me $20 to get your dog.
Okay.
Simple.
Whether it's 8 o'clock at night or 9 in the morning, yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
They will have to have some type of receipt. That's just a state requirement, that there has to be a receipt.
yeah, yeah. Well, we can make this work. Let me put this together and we'll come back in 2 weeks and review it and,
Because we'll need to see the dog one then too.
yeah, I'm
in
gonna
addition to this.
basically try to redo the
Yep.
dogs and the cats at the same time so that we'll have the $20 per day caring for the cost of caring for the critter and possible $50 civil penalty, subject to officer discretion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, $50 instead of 20. Make it so that they don't let their cats out or their dogs out.
Yeah.
You know, they'll take those steps.
Okay, let me bring that back in 2 weeks and we'll try to hammer it out.
You can always come to, I mean, if it's something like, well, my little girl was walking the dog and it got away from her, and the police picked it up. They always have the option to come to council and plead their case and get it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And get it dismissed.
Exactly.
And I think that discretion that he just talked about,
And frankly,
that guy goes to the cop and here's a leash on there and the little girl's crying. Well, yeah, we're not.
yeah, the cop's gonna say,
Yeah, yeah.
come get
I
your
mean,
dog.
They, for
That's a
instance,
reason for
my
giving them
dog is 8
discretion.
years old. He got out one time.
Yeah.
This summer.
Yeah,
And does that person that actually paid to have your backyard fenced in and that one of the neighbor kids opened the gate,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
I deserve to get dorked for a $50 bill and a $20 feeding deal because my neighbor opened the gate?
yeah, yep.
Pass the bill on to your neighbor. Okay.
Next, we have, actually, the next two items go together. 2023-28 resolution for a garbage, what I call the surcharge, it's really not a surcharge. It's a typical situation for where the guys are driving the truck down the road with the arm picking up totes, and somebody's got 4 black bags of garbage laying next to the tote.
And you see it a lot.
Yep.
Yep.
And under the current ordinance, they're certainly entitled to charge extra for that. Well, here we're going to establish it. So if you look in your first 2 charts, at the last line in each of the first 2 charts, extra bagged garbage outside the tote or outside the dumpster. We're going to charge them $10 per yard or any portion of the yard. So when the crew picking up for the contractor makes note that at such and such an address, we picked up 3 bags of garbage in addition to what was in the tote. That'll come back down to the finance office, and it'll be billed out to the customer based upon the $10. If it's not more than a yard, it'll be $10.
So that $10 in that situation is split with River Bottom and the city?
Now,
7 and 3.
we'll go to the next document that we're talking
Oh,
about here.
okay.
But hang on, because So if I stack 3 bags on top of my loaded tote, is that still considered in the tote?
If
If he'll pick up and dump it into the truck,
Then it would be.
yeah, it would be.
And if they fall off on the way to the truck?
Nah,
Forget
that's
now.
not in the tote.
Okay.
Where this came,
We're gonna need cameras. We're gonna need pictures.
we have,
They are
them.
taking pictures.
we have.
Very-
them.
Most of
good.
the time where they're running into this, it's not anybody that's trying to make it work.
I
They're just
understand what
coming
you're
out there
saying,
and throwing them next to
but
the.
I can think of people, yours truly, that would stack 4 or 5 bags on top and say, that's still in the tote, that wasn't on the ground.
Stack them
That's why I
carefully.
wonder about wordage on the ground or outside the confines of the tote. I mean,
So where this is coming from is, since the city of Winter went through the process of taking into our possession, the transfer station, we're now paying the tipping fees at Puckwana. And so we're just making sure that everybody's paying their fair share for their garbage. We charge $19.50 for the service of garbage, an additional $5 for the landfill, so $24.50?
yep.
But if you're continually, every week, filling your 97-gallon tote, which is $19.50, plus you're stacking 2 or 3 extra bags on there, you need to
You should
pay.
pay a little extra, I
You need
agree.
to pay for what you produce. It
100%,
shouldn't-
yep.
It shouldn't be the rest of the town that has to absorb the cost for what you're overproducing, so that's where
agree.
this is coming from.
And that's where my question comes. Like, for instance, my commercial totes, call them, I don't know what they're called,
300
the
gallons.
lid doesn't go all the way down to the side of the tote. Consequently, I can put 8, 10, maybe as many as 12 extra bags, because my lid is up like this, and my dumpster ends here. My question is,
If it's not inside the tote, it's outside.
okay, so
If
so
you're ta-
my particular scenario, if I'm stacking them on top of the height of the tote,
Yep,
I pay an extra fee.
pay an extra fee.
Then that's what needs to say, that's how this needs to be written. And
It
only
is.
you know those words.
It's outside.
Okay. Let's add the word confines,
Confines.
outside the confines of the tote or dumpster. Because that has a definite line as to how big it can be.
Seems like it'd be
If I
pretty
stack
simple.
it on top of my dumpster, that's still in the dumpster.
But if it's stacked outside the
Outside the
confines,
confines, then it is not.
I will
in the
never
dumpster.
argue with your English grammar. I think.
I'll take it. We'll
There's those of us in town that are gonna,
Yeah.
they're
Well,
gonna claim that.
Yeah.
I actually agree with him.
I do too.
Because on the commercial side, if you have a 6-yard dumpster, you can flip all those lids open.
And you can
stack-
hold a
You can
whole lot
stack a
more.
lot of bags on top of that 6-yard dumpster.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. I bet I can get half again a dumpster on top of mine with that lid open.
For sure,
holding it.
another 2 yards of,
No
Huh?
question.
for
yeah.
sure, a third.
Easy half, I bet you, based on how tall the dumpster is and how much I can, because the lid,
Well, you remember-
when you open it, it's as tall as the dumpster.
You remember what the 6-yard dumpsters, well, like 3 years ago when we had that issue out at the apartment buildings out here?
Yeah,
How
how high those were
high
piled.
those were stacked.
Those
Oh,
were
yeah.
double.
And when the truck went to pick them up, it just, it went everywhere.
Then they fall on the ground, yep,
Yep.
and they gotta get out and pick them up. That's why I think outside the confines,
Yeah, I-
we need that,
You've convinced me.
that kind of language.
wouldn't it be simple, the simplest, just to say if the lid don't close, it's got more on it?
Okay,
People are gonna fight outside the confines,
So the only thing
understand that rule.
because I put my wrapping paper roll in my dumpster this morning.
and they stick out the top,
And that's gonna
Yeah.
stick out.
yeah.
But it's outside the confines is what they're saying.
Yeah, 6 inches of it.
According to
at
this.
the
Well, where do you start and stop? That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
This sounds
Remember
like a
that the
moneymaker
guys
to me.
that are.
I don't care what it says, but
The guys that are operating the truck and making the notes are not lawyers.
I think they are. Closet attorneys.
Yeah.
I can tell you the number one argument that is going to come up on the residential side, because I get calls for it all the time, is we bought a new TV. We bought
Yep.
we bought a 72-inch TV, it came in a cardboard box. And if I cut that thing down and I stick it in my 97-gallon tote, it's full, and I can't get any more garbage in it for the rest of the week. That's that is,
Valid complaint.
that's where I say, this is not geared towards the once in a
Once in a
while
while, I
offenders.
agree.
You know, once in a while, they're gonna run into that circumstance. And John will get out of the truck and he will go throw it in the truck. This is geared towards the people that week in and week out always have at least one extra bag laying on the sidewalk, and every time he stops at that residence, he's gotta get out and pick up that extra bag. If you're overproducing every week, you need to be paying more.
yeah.
That's why we have different size containers
Correct.
to fit whatever
Right.
your production is. And that's what our cost of our tipping
Yep.
fee is.
Yep.
Back to the wrapping paper, I think it is within the confines and the.
Oh, yeah.
If the majority of the tube is in the bucket,
yeah.
yeah.
Or that TV, it's
Yeah.
broken down, that box is mostly within the confines.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we also take cardboard out at the recycling
I
center. Is-
just,
you know,
I got a
There's-
TV, I got a bale sitting in my garage ready to haul out there.
Yeah.
I need to get it out, but
That's one thing that
That's-
needs to be brought up too, is that, you know, cities went, I think, in my opinion, we went above and beyond in this last go round with the garbage deal, and we've provided several different size options for containers that we didn't have in the past, so, you know, we've put out a lot of those 300-gallon containers around town, and they've really served a good purpose, because if you have a household of 2 adults and, you know, 4 or 5 kids or 3 or 4 kids, you're gonna fill up a 97-gallon tote
In
faster than in 1 week. I know from experience, just having 2 boys at home, if I didn't get mine out weekly, I was running it over. There's no way I could go 2 weeks. Now the boys are gone, it's just Carrie and I drag it out to the street every other week.
Yeah, I
But-
take mine once a month, yeah.
But those 300-gallon totes have definitely served a purpose, and we have
Yeah.
them out in multiple areas of town.
I have one. It's,
You do?
yeah,
at the laundromat.
yeah. It's been a lifesaver.
Yeah.
You bet.
So, I mean, that's what we're trying to do here, is we're just trying to. if
Are
the
those
shoe-
300 gallon, are they still on wheels, or?
No.
Is that what I have out of Golden Prairie?
Yes.
The tannish colored with
Yes.
the lid that comes
Gray.
up?
The
Half
gray
lid.
with the half
There's
lid.
no wheels.
But the
Well,
whole
the-
idea,
Flies
we have
No
two-
wheels, yeah.
two examples here, and I like the confines of the thing, of the container, because of the example we had out over the holidays a couple years ago, where that 6-yard dumpster was holding at least 12 yards of garbage.
Yeah.
And there were 3 of them
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
They were overproducing, and at that
Well, I
point.
know when we have somebody
time.
move in, our garbage goes up that week.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we have way more when
Sure.
people move in.
Sure.
And now we've had a rash of them move out, same difference. So I just put it in the garage until the end, after that pickup, so that I'm not having it on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, just wait, because we don't have the same level every 2 days or every 3 days, whatever our pickup schedule is, so I just wait when we have that overabundance, but people might have to learn to do that as well. I like the idea of the limit of the can is this limit.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit in the can,
I like your word,
Then-
confines.
Get a bigger one, or?
It works.
get it, or even his with the lid closed,
Yeah.
but that makes a problem then with her scenario where,
Most of it's in there, though.
yeah.
Some of the discussion this last week, just as a smile here, as we discussed this, there's some people out there that used to be able to operate on a 96-gallon tote, 95-gallon tote, when they were one individual, but now they can't figure out how come their 95 gallons doesn't hold it, even though they're now married with 2 babies. And I'm like, Okay, you're rapidly producing more, and
So because there's no yellow on this, did we already have this in here? Or
No,
are we
I'm sorry,
adding that
I
extra
should have
bag?
made it yellow, but no.
Okay,
I added that last line of the first two,
of the first two boxes, okay.
yes. So I will change on both of those to define it as outside the confines of the toter dumpster. To go along with that, if you take a look at the next document, it's only a one-page, and here we are to the third addendum to our contract. This is where the $10 gets split up. Adam says he's acceptable with his guys, him getting $3 of the 10, and the city will get 7, which is consistent with what we charge out at the center for extra garbage that gets brought out there directly, $7 a yard. So that would split that accordingly. So as long as I make that change on the resolution, are you
Well,
guys?
you almost have that in the confines in item A, not contained within the tote.
There you go.
So you already have that in this, but not in the price structure.
There you go.
So
Yep.
you were thinking the same way I was.
That's scary.
Thank you. I wasn't gonna say.
No, but I'm thinking like an attorney.
Yep. So, question.
So do we need to, in this contract, say we want visual evidence of that?
No.
Yeah,
No?
we're gonna have to, because if the customer comes back,
Camera, how?
if they actually see it on their utility bill and there's somebody that pays attention to their utility bill, they're gonna come up to the finance office, they're gonna show up at the
Prove it.
window and say, what is this extra
Yep,
$20 because it's been a month and they've got it nailed twice? They're gonna say, what's this extra $20 for? And so
We never
we're gonna
made
have
the
to have
previous
proof of that.
contractor do that.
We
Well-
certainly didn't, and we charged extra when they gave us the list.
Yeah, we've had this
Ultimately, we
discussion
said
with
you have to
Adam.
call a contractor, they'll figure that out with you. We just bill what they tell us.
but this says the information shall be recorded and reported to the city finance office to be included as additional charges to the customer.
Printed out.
But recorded can be visual too, can be
written.
Oh,
a picture.
But is
when I
that
take a
what
piece
we
of paper
want
and I
to
write
do?
something on it, I'm recording the information on that paper.
Okay,
I think that's between-
and that'll stand up in court?
Sure.
I think it is between our contractor
And the customer.
and the customer. I think he's gonna need the visual evidence. We just.
That we wouldn't
recorded-
need to get involved with that?
Right.
No.
Okay, let him take the picture, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
If you're gonna call us and tell us to find them, you better have your evidence.
I don't know, did anybody ever challenge Heartland on that? I'm not aware if they did.
A couple of times people came in and said, what is this for? Because they get confused about the 2 months behind in billing. And then we tell them, oh, no, it was this month. Oh, yeah, I guess I did have extra garbage out that month.
Yeah.
So but again, anytime anyone came in and challenged that, we said, we only bill what Heartland, our previous contractor tells us to bill.
Correct.
So if you have a question on that, you have to call them. They're the ones who are out there running the route.
In driving around, would you guys think that there's probably 10% of the totes that are ready to be picked up have garbage beside them? No.
No.
20,
It's like
he
five,
told us
3 or-
20 to 24 per day, so per route on the residential. There's
And they're
20 to
picking up
24
400 a day?
Ish, yeah.
5% then?
Yeah.
5 to 10%, yep. Because I know when I drive around a lot, okay? And I see a lot of bags on the ground next to the tote. So that's why I was wondering.
There are some people in town that they refuse to use the totes. There's a small percentage, but I mean, there are like a handful of customers in town that just say, I never did it, and I'm not gonna start. And they will not, they refuse to use the tote.
Oh, my.
So,
Is the driver getting out and throwing it over the edge?
so far, yes. And that's a conversation that's
That's
a conversation
between
that we
Heartland
had
and-
with Adam here not too long ago, is we actually felt that he was being too lenient on this. I mean, you gotta stick to your guns.
Yeah.
And that's where we're, and that's where it came from my end is we're looking at this thing and we're like, hey, this tonnage, we're filling this truck every week, 3 times a week, 2.5 times a week. We're looking at the tonnage and we're like, we're going, hey, there's some weeks where it seems like that truck gets full a lot faster, and we got to watch that, because that's you and I that are paying for that. That's we got to, we can't just have people not paying their fair share. They need to pay for what they produce. But it's a small percentage of people that. But if they are doing that week in and week out, and that's what the conversation we had with Adam is, you need to let us know that. It's written right in the ordinance that either Kelly or myself can, if we have proof of that, we can make them go to the next size up.
That's right.
Container. And we'll adjust their bill accordingly.
Yep.
So we're asking him, this is the teeth of what we're asking him to do, is quit being so lenient, quit getting out of the truck. Just, if there's
Just
extra
drive
trash.
by, dump the tote and drive by the rest.
Yeah.
Yep. They'll put it in the tote for the next week.
But we were getting a lot of backlash for that. So this is the way that we.
That's why I
both
think we
sides
should make him
happy.
take pictures.
Yep.
Yep.
I've made the phone calls. I've called the other towns. Nobody, that is the whole thought process behind the automated truck, is the driver does not have to get out.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
That's what we said in our contract. We wanted that equipment running the streets of the city of Winter. And that's why we bought the containers that we bought. That's why so that he doesn't have to stop every block and get out, so he can get his route done in a timely fashion.
Yep.
There may come a day where, we may get a different contractor in here someday, and he says, I can do the whole city of Winter in 2 days.
Yep.
That's just the way it's gonna work for me. It's gonna be more efficient.
Yep.
I would actually prefer that. I would actually prefer that they did the whole city, and if they broke it in half and did it in 2 days, that'd eliminate holidays, and it would give them a bigger cushion for snow days and things like that. They would have a bigger window to get the residents picked up. But that's the reason that they do the arm truck, is because it's so much faster.
And maybe this change that we're gonna charge him for the bags that don't fit, maybe that will cause them to get
Should
that
be a
bigger
start.
tote.
Should be a
Yeah,
little.
maybe that'll help.
Additional emphasis. Hopefully. So if I make those changes on the resolution and looking at the addendum, is everybody good with going forward to council with those?
Yep.
Can I get clarification?
Please.
Because we're 2 months behind in billing. When this goes through, because it's just a resolution, so it only takes 20 days, it'd be published on December, so it would be effective in December. It would be published
The
December
end of
6th.
December, yeah.
Is it for December's readings billings? Or will it be for the January 1st bill? Which would be November's readings billings.
Well,
I don't think we should, I don't know that we have the right to go backwards.
I think I think when this is all said and done, which would be
Start in January.
moving
and then
forward,
got March.
January 1, they start recording, whatever they want to enforce. Don't,
December's gonna be a bad month for you. You're gonna haul a lot of stuff up to Puck and not get paid for it.
you can't
We can't go backwards.
Gotta start somewhere.
change our
Sorry,
water rates and say,
I'm sorry.
geez, we really
No,
want
I
to bill you.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you said, though, it's not rocket science. If you have a couple extra bags, because it's Christmas time, it's gonna be wrapping paper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Throw them in the back of your pickup till the next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out.
So we're saying January 1st readings, which would be March 1st bill.
It'd be the March 1st bill. It'll show up on your March 1st bill. That's what I think. I mean,
I think
The
you gotta,
contractor needs to know that too, so that he's not thinking he's gonna get paid $3.
But-
So he won't actually get paid that till.
but the contractor ought to be told, if it's not in the dumpster, leave it. Stop getting out of your damn truck.
if he does
Take a
something,
picture.
if he does something that's outside of the ordinance, it's up to him.
Yeah, but we're paying for that, because he's dropping it at our place, and we have to transport it to Puck at our cost. So this contractor ought to abide by what we say, leave it on the ground if it's not in the dumpster. Because we're not getting paid for it if it's on the ground. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Leave it on the ground, let the people put it in their tote next week. And handle the phone calls with, you should have had it in the tote. Or you should get a larger tote if you're if every week you're leaving it on the ground, then somebody needs to tell them you're required to have a bigger tote.
It's no different than any other service. I mean, you go to the grocery store and you buy $100 worth of groceries and they give you $70 worth of groceries and they say, oh, we're closed. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but,
It's costing us on the other end.
Yeah.
That's why we're seeing it.
yeah.
Chandra, I was just gonna say, I think it's a tendency of your office to concern ourselves with whether we're talking about when is it billed as opposed to when did it occur. But under plain language, my position would be that if this says this change in this resolution is effective January 1, you can't impose it for anything that occurred prior to January 1.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree.
And I think
You
that's
would
all
see
we
it in
have to
March,
Yeah.
on the
take
March
that
bill.
approach.
Yeah.
Yep. No,
But
that's
until that
perfectly fine.
time-
I just wanted to make sure we knew for a fact when, because they've already started keeping track at this point in time, but I want to make sure for our purposes on the billing
We won't bill it.
and advertising
Right.
out there that this is what's going to happen.
But we need to tell our contractor, leave it on the ground. And we need to
It's
get,
gonna end up,
we need to get real serious with him.
it's gonna end up out there anyway. If they have 8 garbage bags that don't fit in their garbage can, they're gonna go find a dumpster to put it in. It's gonna end up there anyway.
Okay? But let them go to that hassle.
I know, I'm just saying,
Put them through the
Put a lot of thought
hassle,
into
drive
this.
by it. Take a picture, dump the dumpster, leave the rest there.
It is technically, what is,
Trespassing.
yeah, if you're using somebody else's dumpster, it can be arrested for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get that ready to go. Thank you. Gee, we got 2 minutes, we probably won't get far.
Let's just table it and come back fresh.
Please do.
They can,
I
they can
would-
read through these before we have this
Please
discussion.
take these seriously and read through these. I labeled them A and B just so we keep them separate. But there's really a couple of different options for how we could approach doing these economic development incentives through a sales tax rebate for new businesses or through a rebate of a portion of utility charges for the appropriate place. Just look at those and we'll try to get into these in detail next time.
So what